Okay, it was weird. For some reason, it didn't want me to stream. That's very strange. Am I live? Alright, I am live. Very good. Okay, we're doing okay.
白岩学園3年 B 組の皆さん、こんにちは。
Alright, good afternoon. So, alright, yesterday I sounded, I suppose, just a hair black-pilled, and yeah, I kind of agree that I did. This happens to me when it's late at night and I'm really tired and I can't help it. It's just the way that I am. But I do agree that it's not the most wonderful thing in the world, because whatever energy you put out is what the world receives. That's a tautology. It's fucking truism, and I get it. But I'm just saying that it is a good idea to be careful about what you are putting out to the world. I actually agree with that. So I'm going to try to keep myself from moving into that too much while I'm in the middle of a stream. Part of that is going to entail myself getting better sleep, which is not always easy because my neighbors, they have they got a bird and two freaking chihuahuas. My gosh. the piercing sound of that first thing in the morning is difficult to get out of your head when you're trying to fall asleep. Anyway, okay, so yesterday I was talking about a sea change, and the sea change that I was talking about it 2 days ago, and that was the Irish people that were having their little town meeting that involved them essentially saying, we don't consent to being demographically replaced. We don't want to be ethnically cleansed here in Ireland. We are Irish. This is Ireland. Somalia is for Somalians. Perfectly reasonable. And I was thinking earlier today, I was listening to someone talk about questions that one might ask, and the concept was to throw people into a trap. And the concept of the trap was that it was all based on dual morality. And so if you asked a particular type of question, you would be able to reveal the dual morality. And the concept, simply put, is you ask about a general, universal moral concept that anyone could agree to, and then you just point out, well, but you do not adhere to that. And that works to a point, but I'm really starting to come all the way around to, of all things, Josh Neal's idea that it's not that facts don't care about your feelings. I'm kind of agreeing with Josh Neal on this one. And the idea here is that by asking those kinds of questions, you are only able to reach people that have a certain mindset. You're really only going to ever reach, like, a borderline autist or something, someone who is already of a mind to hear that question and to fully understand it. So I kind of feel like that's not the right direction to go. Which isn't to say that I feel like I'm bordering on saying that we don't need to ask questions, or we don't need to reveal hypocrisy or anything. I mean, of course we should. That is a thing that needs to be done for a lot of reasons. New people are coming online all the time. New people are being freshly pilled all the time, which means that they're going to need rhetorical tools so that they can deal with these kinds of interrogations on their own. So I'm not saying that anyone ought to do away with this line of questioning altogether. I'm just saying that it's not going to be the BTFO tool. I genuinely don't think that that's the case. And one of the reasons for that is because by asking these kinds of rhetorical questions, what you're doing is you're playing Mother May I, basically literally. You are attempting to get a person who is already treacherous to acknowledge their treachery, which they will never ever do. So I don't think that it's fruitful from the standpoint of engaging the treacherous person anyway. I don't think that it's useful to engage other than as a tool for learning. Now, I'm very on board with engaging treacherous people so that it ends up being a learning experience for an audience member. I'm very comfortable with that. In fact, I think that's a really, really good idea. And feelings don't care about facts. That's 100% the case. 100% the case. Yeah. Both are true. Different people are going to get different information from different sources. Whatever. Anyway, by asking a treacherous person to agree to something and to acknowledge their hypocrisy, all you're really doing, or rather by requesting them, and they will always deny their treachery. They will always say, but we get an exception. You're wasting your time on that person if there's a person that is in the audience that is prepared for it, that is to say, if you have an audience and you tell the audience, if you call out what the treacherous person is going to do, and then engage the treacherous person, having already prepared the audience for what they're about to see, then when the treacherous person pulls their treachery, then the audience gets to see, we are dealing with this style of lies and deception. I think this is the correct direction to go. I think the idea, because I've had some success with this, where I will call out what I think a person will do to someone that I know. Like there's a buddy of mine. We're both talking with another person, and I will take my buddy aside and I'll say, look, I'm going to mess with this person in a particular way, and you're going to see exactly how they're going to respond, and I'm going to call it out for you so that you can watch the entire thing play out. And it's a riot. It's great. It's wonderful. And I've done that a few times. It's really great. To great effect. Your friend always ends up being pleased that you have explained something to them that they can use in the future. So I think that with the line of reasoning, the line of questioning, I think that the proper way of approaching it is there needs to be a set of questions and talking points that are standardized, that are designed specifically, and I mean very specifically, to draw out certain kinds of responses that will indicate to the uninitiated things that they need to see. And one of my favorites at the moment, formerly my favorite, is, because you hear this all the time, the fellow white issue. Very often you will hear a fellow white say, we are white, and then you simply get to ask, well, if you're white, then does that mean that the Holocaust was white genocide? I have never gotten an answer to that. I've never gotten an answer on that one. And it's great, because you basically call them out, and they will do everything. They will throw so much sand in your eye. They will dodge, and they will dodge, and then they will give you a false answer, then say that they've answered the question, and then try to give you a question. Now, this comes back to the idea of questions, okay? If you ask a question, you're putting the other person in power, but this can actually go two ways, because you can also, as I've just described, you can also ask a loaded question. So you may present the person as being in power, when in fact you are the one who in some sense is in power, inasmuch as you are giving a false dilemma. This is a classic tool that rhetoricians use all the time. Anyhow, the thing is, I think that for a person who is arguing in good faith, asking questions is the wrong way to go. That is to say, a person who is arguing in good faith, dealing with a person who is not arguing in good faith. If you know that you're dealing with a person who is not going to argue in good faith, you should never ever ask them a question unless it's a loaded question designed to draw out a particular response, a response that highlights their hypocrisy. Let's see here. Jonathan Paul says, I am comfortable in accepting the progressives' definition that gems are POC and Arab are white. Yeah. I guess we have no choice, because to disagree would probably make you a racist. At any rate. So yeah, I think that's also another element to all of this, which is arguing in good faith versus not arguing in good faith. We have a tendency to, I'm very guilty of this one, I have had a tendency to argue in good faith for pretty much the majority of my life, and only recently have I taken to heart that there are people that have genuine malice in their hearts, and they will not argue in good faith, and indeed they wish to go one or two steps further than argument and into the physical world. This has been quite a shock for me. I will admit I have been a bit naive my entire life, but that's fine. Asking questions of treacherous people can only end in treachery, lies, and deception. It can never end well. So I think that, coming all the way back, there needs to be talking points, and I actually do like the idea of having specifically worded, loaded questions. I actually do like that. And this is one of the reasons why I freaking love the question, if fellow whites are white, does that mean that the Holocaust was white genocide? I love that question. It's so good. The reactions that you get are amazing. I got blocked several times on Twitter for that one, so I highly recommend using that one. And there are a couple of others, but I don't recall them off the top of my head. Anyway, the other issue with it is that there's also kind of a metaphysical level as well, which is that by asking a question, you are putting the other person in power. In some sense, you are lowering yourself. In some sense. And you basically give up your initiative. And I think that's kind of where we are right now. I mean, of course, the context, I think, makes the difference. So we are in this context, we do not wish to be ethnically cleansed, and we are asking questions of the people who are ethnically cleansing us. Rather than assert anything, asking a question, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that the correct response is to simply assert your own existence and say, basically, hell no, I won't go. I think that's the correct direction to go, because anything else basically comes off as, well, cuckoldry, essentially. There was a clip that I was watching earlier this evening of a school mother. She was a mother with children in school in California. She was talking about how she did not like the sex ed classes that were being given. Oh, Silver Screen's got a new avatar. Nice. Yeah, exactly. Excuse me, sir. I love that. That's a good response. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was America. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, she was indicating her dislike of the sex ed classes, and I do like that she was willing to stand up, and she was clearly upset, and she was willing to voice it. However, she ended up saying something to the effect of, God, what was it? I'm trying to remember what she said. Yeah, she was saying something about how there's like the gay agenda going on, and how you can practice that, and you can do that on your own, and we may still love you as a person, but we don't want our children exposed to that, or something to that effect. And I kind of feel as though that would actually be a good opportunity to start Deus Vult posting, because these people don't understand compromise in which they are not the victors, in which they are not advancing themselves and everyone else is receding. They don't understand anything other than that. And this is a very, very tricky subject. This is a very tricky thing, because you can't Fed post. You can't do that in the middle of like one of these like schoolhouse meetings. You can't just say Salem Witch Trials 2.0. You can't do that. You can't say the answer to 1984 is 1492. You know, I mean, we're kind of going in that direction, but it's not the kind of thing that you can just say in public. And yet, in a brutal irony, I kind of feel like that's the only logical direction that we can go. I don't see any way out of that. I think that we are going to, of necessity, we're going to need to end up moving in that direction, because without the ability to push back and to say hell no, we don't have anything. We have nothing at all, and no one's pushing back. Everyone is capitulating and then asking questions, trying to show the treacherous people for being the hypocrites that they are. I think that the correct thing to do, I mean, if I was going to ask a question of a treacherous person to get them to display their hypocrisy and malice, what I would do is I would set everything up so that I would indicate, again, to an audience, because that woman, when she was talking to the school board, she was addressing the school board. She was not addressing the audience. The emperor's clothes also reveals to us that the emperor is indeed just a man, and it's up to us whether or not we take that man seriously. I think the correct direction to move is to say, look, we outnumber you, and we're just not going to obey. We're not going to capitulate, compromise. We're not going to acquiesce. We are not going to bend over, bow down, take a knee. We're not going to do your bidding. Period. The end. Not only that, we've got moral authority to reject you utterly and completely. And I think that if I was going to move in the direction of, again, asking a question to show off the treachery of the villain that I am addressing, it must be designed in such a way that the audience gets it, and that the audience is completely on my side, and that the audience, with indignation, rebukes the treacherous villain. I think that's the correct direction to go. And we don't have anything like that right now. We don't have people that are willing to let me rephrase that. There are some people that are willing to say these things in public. In some sense, this is public. I'm on flipping YouTube or whatever, doing a live stream, but it's not really public. I mean, there's like a dozen people in here or something. Wow, call the cops. It's not terribly impressive. And there are some people that are doing some better jobs, some not so excellent jobs of talking about some of these concepts in public. And to them, I can only say, they're able to talk to their audience, but we have such small audiences right now. I'm not sure how one would go out and proselytize. I don't know how that would work out just yet, but I do think that we're going to be moving in that direction in the very near future. If Ireland is any indicator, I think we're starting to move in that direction. I think. There was a thing that I was looking at earlier today. I spend too much time on Twitter. I have to get the fuck off Twitter. There was some kind of a little questionnaire that was put out that referred to the dissident right. Just general questions, thoughts on, marijuana or gun control or whatever. Of course, everyone is like 70% or 80% were just like straight ahead pro-gun, which is great. And, these kinds of things. And they went, like 95% male, 5% female, and a couple of shitlords that answered other. Anyway, very surprising. An old Gen Xer, within the poll was a limited sample of maybe a little over 1,000 people, might have been 2,000 at most. So it's a limited sample group, and it was a sample group that was essentially like friends of the person that put out the poll. But it's still interesting that within this sample group, a Gen Xer, I only comprised, I think, 7%. Most were, I think they were hovering in like the 18 to 25 area, like below 30 basically. And I couldn't help but think to myself, that's very interesting. That's very interesting because that means that there's a lot of very, very young people that are basically years ahead of me. I didn't get clued into anything at all until like age 38, maybe age 39 or so. So it took me quite some time to, quote, get online. And just imagine there are people in high school that are aware of these things. And those high schoolers, they are still full of piss and vinegars in a way that I'm not. Or rather, they're full of piss and vinegar in ways that I am not. There's a lot to be said for mellowing out as you get older, and that's basically where I am now. I'm a lot older. I'm a lot more mellow. I went from listening to Nine Inch Nails in my teens to listening to breakbeat in my 20s. And then finally, Boards of Canada in my 30s, and now at like age 40, I listen to fucking vaporwave and noise art. So, just in terms of musical taste, you can see a mellowing out that's happened with me. And weirdly, it goes in the opposite direction politically. Strangely, I am much less likely to act out or do anything silly. However, I've become a lot more hardline in terms of my political thoughts, as where with the younger kids, there's more plasticity with regards to idea sets. However, they're much more likely to act out. So I think it's interesting that there is essentially there is room for not only growth, but for action as well. So I think that thinking about these kids need to be directed, dealt with, handled. I like directed, but the thing is, like, I'm more thinking about guiding. That's the word I'm looking for, guiding. These kids are going to need guiding. They will need to be made aware of certain things in the world, and they're going to need tool sets. We're going to have to construct mental tool sets for them to use so that they can navigate some of these waters. And one of them, in my own opinion anyway, is that we need to get back into being straight ahead assertive. Just think about the standard conservative line. Basically, it's acquiesce, give everything up, and hope for the best. Hopefully you don't get called a racist or something like that. So it doesn't matter what the boomer or what the conservative is doing. If they're doing anything that you don't like, you just call them a racist, and the first thing they'll do is back off and say, I'm terribly sorry, how can I sign off on whatever it was that you were doing? That's what they'll do. We need to stop that mindset completely. And instead, I think that the appropriate reaction in most cases is now, we don't negotiate with terrorists. The end. I've been... I gotta get off of Twitter. Fuck, I've got to get off of Twitter. Anyway, I've been responding to Beta O'Rourke and Alyssa Milano, people like them, with we don't negotiate with terrorists. And I think that's the appropriate rhetoric. The appropriate rhetoric is, you people want something that we are not willing to give up. You people want to hurt us in ways that we do not want to allow. You are aggressors, and we are defending ourselves. And I think that's the appropriate framing. because then once you, and this is different from victim. This is very, very different from victim, okay? I'm not talking about throwing on sackcloth and ash and wailing in the fucking streets like a retard. I'm not talking about that at all. That is not what I am saying. What I am saying is that simply announce, and the cops will talk about this, military will talk about this. You simply, like, if a person is threatening to aggress, you simply indicate to them, okay, I am now regarding what you are doing as possibly a threat to my personal safety. And should you do anything at all, I will respond in turn to whatever threats I observe. Don't fuck with me. That's the response. That's what actually needs to happen. And if you were going to, again, ask an interrogative or whatever, it should only be with the idea of drawing out for everyone to see the treacherous thing attacking you. Anyhow, alright, it's 11:35, and I'm gonna check the chat. Oh, freaking Sin is here. Hey, buddy, look at that. Sin, if you have any power on your phone, let me know, because I'm generating a link now. If you have the ability to pop in, let me know. So there we are. Sorry all of this takes so much time, actually having to click buttons or whatever. What a pain in the ass. How dare everything be incrementally less convenient than I want it to be. How terrible. Anyway, let's see here. We've got a nice little spread here. Let's see here. Blondie gets it. She's far more. Wait, Blondie? I don't know who Blondie is. Oh, yeah. Silver Screen says that he says, yeah, I'm racist, and then he keeps going, and then he might explain why. Yeah, I kind of like that. I'm getting to the same phase. I'm all the way to the point now where when people call me things, I typically just roll my eyes and say, okay, all right, this is where we're going now. All right, very good, big guy. I have a tendency to take on a condescending tone once a person does that. For some reason, it's easier for me to deal with. So anyhow, all right, yeah, exactly, just own it. Yeah, because it's hard to explain. Because I still have a lot to sort through in my own head, but I'm not sure yet, because I'm in the middle of freaking Gomorrah, so talking about these things is just not easy. When we hear in the chat, when we say things like, yeah, we are racist, we know what we are talking about, when you're in the middle of freaking Gomorrah, the moment you say that, they're not thinking about race realism, they're not thinking about in-group preference, they're not thinking about anything of the sort. So for me, I would say it and I'd be like, well, yeah, but like, whatever, like, who fucking cares? So is everyone else. And like, I would kind of get it, but of course, what are they, again, in Gomorrah, right? Context dependent. I'm talking about the context. IRL in places like here, Los Angeles, you can't get away with just saying that. It's a goddamn shame, but so it goes. Anyhow, yeah, I wish that it wasn't the case. I'd like to find a way to deal with that here in Los Angeles, but I'm not sure how I'd deal with it here. Online, it's not a big deal. If anyone calls me like a Russian, I usually laugh at them. If they call me a Klansman, I laugh at them. It's all the same to me. I don't really care. As where here, again, in Gomorrah, like, oh Christ, I'm not sure how to deal with that. If someone were to say that, I'd be like, whatever, dude, you're fucking out of your mind. And it's probably the direction that I would go. Probably. Yeah, Sin is saying that he would say I'm not racist, but I am a racialist. I think I would probably say race realist or something like that. Or like I understand the differences between, like I understand the differences between haplogroups or something like that. Like there are differences between haplogroups. And there are genetic traits that are completely heritable, something like that. That's like I would very likely couch everything in technical terminology, so that whoever it is that I'm addressing would understand. Yeah, liberalist. Yeah. Oh God, I kind of miss the liberalist days. Andy Worski. I forgot that I got a strike on my channel because of that. A guidelines strike because I uploaded a video that had anime boobs on it or whatever, and someone decided they didn't like me, so they flagged the video, and then the video got taken down and I got a strike for it. I appealed it and they're like, no, fuck off. Meanwhile, that same fucking upload is probably out there somewhere on YouTube. Like, so I copied it from a different video. From YouTube, but I mean, whatever. It doesn't actually matter. So anyhow, I think what I'm gonna do right now is I'm waiting on Sin, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play a track because I want to play a little bit of music. So this is what we're gonna do. We are at 11:40. We're gonna play something. Let's see, we're in the middle of September at the moment. I don't have any good September music. I just don't. Which is a gall-darn shame. Yeah, I'm going to play some of this, actually. I'm going to play some Cleo. This is a track that I haven't played. I don't know if I've ever played this. I think I have. Like, I might have once or twice, but I can't recall. I'm pretty sure that I did play it, but I just don't remember playing. Anyway. Someone vaped this track at one point, and weirdly, they didn't use the chorus, but my favorite part of this track is the chorus. So I'm playing this because I just want to hear the chorus. That's really what it comes down to. So anyhow, this is Cleo with Faces, circa like 1985. I'll be back in just a minute. Okie doke. So that was Cleo with Faces. I really like that track a lot. And even though it kind of doesn't go anywhere, essentially it's just like a couple of verses. There's a little drum break in the middle of it, and then the chorus. And that's really about it. And they just do that a couple of times. And I think the reason that it's constructed the way that it is, I hate it when I say sentences with "is" like 2 times in a row. The way that it is, well, I started the sentence, I have no choice but to finish it. The reason that it is constructed in that manner, there we are. The reason it's constructed in that manner, I believe, is because it was designed to be a part of a set. So you simply do beat matching, and then you can pick just about anywhere in the song. And you can just transition from one to the next. DJs do this all the time. And I think that was the idea behind it. So the reason it's so repetitive is because it's designed to fit into something else. That's what I think. But I'm not 100%. The other option is that they were really clever at melodies and mixing, and they're just really shit at song construction. What is it? There's a word for it, and I forgot what the word was. Shit. Arrangements. They're terrible at both arrangements and also progressions. So anyhow, Hutch says asking questions snaps the average liberally indoctrinated person out of it more efficiently than elucidation or justification. Yes, this is why I think that with the questioning, it should be a matter of a program. It should be a series of questions. Rather, it should be a question that is designed to elicit a specific type of response or a specific type of reaction, especially exactly one that is a mental reaction. Well, then again, okay, so all right, so let's think about it for a moment. We'll use for just a moment the idea of firearms ownership. And the idea, I suppose I'm looking at people like me in a sense. I used to be a blue-pilled normie. In a lot of ways I still kind of am, but whatever. Point is, I looked at firearms as something like owning a Snickers bar. I was never really into Snickers. I could get one, but it wasn't. Well, we'll pick something else, because actually I kind of did like Snickers when I was a little kid. We'll say Three Musketeers. I didn't really like Three Musketeers all that much. They weren't bad. And if someone offered one to me, I'd be like, yeah, all right, Three Musketeers bar is cool. And then I would eat it. But I wouldn't go out and buy one, because I didn't have any interest in the Three Musketeers bar. Now, it's not the best example, because I'm about to say that, so many years later I like the Three Musketeers bar, but whatever. The point is, I used to look at it in the same manner as a Three Musketeers bar. It was something that I could technically own. I simply had no interest in it. And now I look at firearms ownership as something where I am interested in firearms ownership, and not just for me, but for other people here in what we call these United States. If we were going to try to snap people out of their days and get them to start thinking, then yes, I suppose going into interrogatives, into questioning, might be a good idea. Because, yeah, it kind of does snap people out, because then it forces them to think. So seen from that standpoint, I kind of agree. So, okay, so I suppose that there needs to be tools designed for different kinds of contexts. When you are dealing with a hard authoritarian, asking questions is not the correct model, because you're playing Mother May I. Instead, you should be assertive and say, no, you're being a tyrant. Stop it. stop attacking me, or I might start defending myself. As where in a different context, when you're dealing with a person that might get on your side, maybe, then I think asking questions, in that context, then asking questions would be great, because then what if they do get on your side? And the easiest way you can get the person onto your side is to just start asking them questions. Interrupt their thought pattern, interrupt their train of thought, and get them to pick their own thoughts apart a little bit. So, okay, yeah, I can actually see that. I can see that. Let's see here. Yeah, I guess responding with a question deflects the pressure onto them. Yeah, this is the only issue. When you're dealing with a person, that's a good point, by the way. Let's see, Sin. I sent a link in Tele, and I'm gonna send one in Twitter now that I think about it. Messages, and then boom, we got one in Twitter, and I'm going to preempt my boomer tech just a little bit by getting my headphones ready. And there we are. I should be good. There we are. Okay. So yeah, whenever Sin files in, then we will be good. We'll be good to have a nice little chit chat. So anyhow, yeah, coming back to the idea of interrogatives and whatnot. Yeah, I think that interrupting is a good way to go. So, speak of the devil, and surely he will come. Let me transition over, and Sin, you should be good now. Can I get a quick sound check and a hello?
Hey buddy, how's it going?
Hey Sports, oh, man. Yeah, it's going.
I love to troll you with that, man. I cannot lie. It's sincere, but it's also a bit of a troll.
It's okay. I'm okay with it. How's it going, man?
It's going, man. You know, dude. Once again, this is a weird situation with me actually being awake and conscious at this hour of the night. But yeah, man, I don't know. You know, I've had a lot of stuff on my mind lately, so I figured, what the hell, this is a good place as any to fucking talk about shit.
Hey, man, mic is yours. What you got? What's on your mind, man?
Oh, dude, just like, I don't know, man. I'm going through like a bit of I don't know how to explain it, like a black pill flare up, right? Where it's just, I don't know, man. You know, it's like what you were saying earlier in the stream, right? Where, you know, if somebody calls you, you know, if somebody breaks out the R word or the N word or any other fucking letter word on you, you know, you just find yourself kind of becoming irate. Or maybe irate's not the right word, but agitated, you know.
Yeah, I'm to the point
I'm
now
like
where
feeling
it's
that all the time now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's not going away.
Yeah, I'm actually in the same position. I noticed, like the past several days, for some reason, I've been waking up. I don't want to say in bad moods, because it's not. I'm just agitated. I'm just generally upset because, you know, being demographically replaced sucks, and that whole thing of Beta freaking O'Rourke saying, yeah, we're gonna come after your freaking AKs and ARs, and it's like,
and selling fucking t-shirts about it, man.
Yeah, how about go fuck yourself, buddy?
How about you're a traitorous motherfucker and you should be fucking redacted? Yeah, fuck, dude.
Yeah. No, I know.
I don't know. It's just, and then other things too. It's not just like the wider sphere, you know. It's not like the, you know, just the things I'm getting through my screens and, you know, like the look at the wider world. It's also like, in my immediate, like I find that it's bleeding into my regular existence, man. And it's like, well,
How do you mean?
I guess if everybody was at this kind of a point where they're sick and tired of like trying to live a normal life while being consumed with this shit 24/7, things might actually happen. But it's we're the trailblazers, man. We're the first in line.
Yeah. So you're saying that it's starting to bleed into your regular life. How so?
Like I just find myself being a little bit less able to enjoy things, man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching a movie the other day, and the movie featured a guy who is a priest or something like that, and he's like dying of cancer, and he's like an alcoholic or whatever. And the way that the movie was shot, it was designed to make everything seem petty and insignificant and meaningless. And so it's a psychological trick. I know exactly what the filmmakers were doing. It was
Yeah,
designed on
there's
purpose.
yeah, there's your Jimish nihilism right there, dude.
Yes, and like it all centered on a guy. Okay, there was a chick whose husband was an eco-terrorist or something, and he was gonna blow himself up or whatever because climate change. And the wife was like, I'm really worried, can you please talk to him? And the priest was like, yeah, sure, I'll go and talk to him. So the priest does, and they have this big long drawn out conversation or whatever, and the priest is like, yeah, we'll chit chat or some bullshit. So we'll come back to this, call me tomorrow, basically. And the next day, the guy texts the priest and says, meet me at X location at X time. And the priest is like, okay. So he goes, and then when the priest gets to the location, the guy's blown his brains out with a shotgun, and the priest just gets there and he sees a bloody corpse. And then the next 30 seconds to minute and a half, whatever it was, is the priest making a phone call to 911 to say that there's been a suicide. And again, this is all just the idea of showing how meaningless and petty everything is. It's just asshole stuff. Later on in the movie, predictably, there's some weird sparks between the wife and the priest, and they have some kind of a sexual encounter. I stopped watching the movie at that point. I was like, dude, I know where this is going. This is fucking retarded. This is stupid. This is basically...
Wait. You're saying that the priest ended up banging the dead guy's wife?
I think that she was pregnant or something like that. And there's so many problems with it, just in general.
Ooh.
The what is it? The wife was the one who was religious, and the husband was not. The guy who committed suicide was not religious. And it's like, wait, actually, that doesn't work. Marriages don't fucking work like that. I mean, you're either both... You don't fucking do that. A real Christian would not just decide to marry a non-Christian and then just hope for the best. That's not how it works. So, and I looked up the director. The director and writer was this guy on the IMDb. Gave his name or whatever, and then I looked him up on Wikipedia, and the description was that he was a Calvinist. But the problem is that I don't believe that the guy was a Calvinist. These plot points, these character descriptions, they don't resemble anything approximating anything even vaguely Christian. There's something about it. Just something. I mean, maybe the guy became an atheist. I have no idea. But anyway,
no. Your radar is well calibrated, Eke. You gotta trust it, man.
Yeah,
you're sensing something. You know what it is.
I think that might be the case. I actually do. I was looking for confirmation, but I don't know if he is a fellow fight. Anyhow.
Dude, that's the first thing it sounds funny, like you were saying earlier in the stream, about, certain words, right? Like we know if we say something in chat, we know exactly what it is that we mean.
Yeah.
But someone else, just, some normie that may be passing through might not understand, right? But, it's the same. I think it's the same thing here, man, where it's, uh, it might sound crazy, but we know, it's the first thing I look for, and I'm sure many other people, because it's like we have the meme, right? Every single time for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
No.
it's disappointing. The reason I'm thinking of that, the reason I brought that up right now is just because I saw in, God, what was it? I think it was a Tim Pool video, which is actually funny because Tim Pool's chat is pretty fucking based in red pill, dude.
Dude, his chat is 100% on point. I am not the only one that uses him.
Like all the way, dude.
Yeah, I use him as a thermometer, and
yeah, me too.
Clearly there are a lot of people that do the same. Anyway, but go on.
Well, so, but somebody in Tim Pool's chat said something, or in a comment on one of his videos, I think it was the latest video. Anyway, they said something like, "It's funny how all we talk about is the gyms these days," and he's basically calling it out. And he had 17 thumbs up compared to, most of the other comments were in the hundreds. Wait a second, right?
This was in a Tim Pool video? Which video?
Oh, dude, the latest, this PewDiePie thing has blown the internet up, dude. It was in his latest fucking video about the PewDiePie situation.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude. Oh, dude, people are talking all kinds of based and red pilled points.
Wait, so the comment within it was a comment, not Tim Pool. Tim Pool is not talking about fellow whites, right?
No, of course not. Okay. No, it was just a random comment by somebody. Okay. But he was complaining. The comment was complaining about talking about fellow whites all the time now, and that in and of itself is revealing, right? But the replies were even better because it was just hit after hit of there's a reason why, look at the ADL, so on and so forth. I mean, it was just systematic. And all of those replies to this original comment had, 2 or 3 times more thumbs up than that one did. So, and this is in Tim Pool's fucking comment section. So yeah, I'm starting to understand. I think there is reason for certain elements to be afraid of what's going on right now, because I think things might have spread further than any of us really truly understand.
Yeah, there's a peculiar thing that I heard about that, I mean, peculiar in the sense that logical and at the same time weirdly upsetting, but whatever. And I got it from, I think it was Jared Taylor, and it was something to the effect of, we should be thanking the anti-whites because they are basically ushering people into our arms and into our midst.
Well, I mean, they really are, but
yeah,
I'm telling you, this fucking PewDiePie versus ADL situation has brought them into the forefront of the conversation unlike anything I've seen before. I mean, it's pretty damn, like, the level of normie speech going on. I mean, I don't want to make this about that, but I'm just saying, like, it's surprising me, like, when I scrolled through the comments in that video, and that's not the only one. I mean, there's other, like, normie game channels that are talking about this shit.
Nice.
So it's almost like, literally, it's almost like a little micro version of the old Gamers Rise Up fucking meme.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the cooler things that I saw. Did you see that thing with the Irish people, by the way? Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen anything recently on the Irish.
Okay, fair enough.
The
I
last
don't.
thing I saw was related to the abort when they passed the abortion law there.
Right. Well, there was some kind of a community thing in Ireland where a bunch of them, they were in some kind of a meeting, and there was a guy asking this crowd, and there were scores. This wasn't like the chat where it's what, like 24 people or something like that. There were scores of people, scores, and the guy was on like some lectern, or on a podium rather, and he's saying, "Who here, raise your hand if you don't want this to be in Ireland?" And the text relating to it was something about like the Great Replacement or whatever. So the idea is that they didn't want to be replaced, they didn't want to be ethnically cleansed, and they all raised their hands and they cheered. So that's great news. That's excellent
Yeah.
news.
Yeah. See, and that's why, like, I mean, I'm more concerned than ever that shit's going to blow up in some way. And I mean that in both the literal and metaphorical senses
Yeah.
simultaneously. Because they can't let things keep going on this trajectory, man. They know it. So something has to change, and it's not going to be good. And that's the
Yeah.
problem, man. When the board, when the game is not going their way, they have like console commands. They can fucking cheat. So
Yeah.
we've kind of run into that problem many times already, and many people I think haven't even really noticed. But I mean, fuck, man. The whole concept of controlled opposition. It's like if you're so powerful that you can present an opposition and make it even remotely believable as real. Fuck, man. Like you're that's like you're maintaining power. You have it. You're just maintaining it at that point.
Yeah. Um, there's a thing that I remember thinking about, which is non-Rothschild controlled banks.
Yeah, fuck, man. People have thought about that before. I think the only way you're gonna achieve that going forward, truly, I think, is the whole decentralized fucking, you know, coin-based setups. Like, and I'm not even really big into that, but I think that's the only way, dude, because you're not going to be able to institutionalize anything. They'll destroy it while it's still nascent. That's what they always do. So I mean, how can you do it? Maybe if you
Yeah.
had a country, but that's happened before too, and we've seen where that goes. If an entire country says, fuck it, we're going to do it this way, it doesn't usually work out very well.
What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is that the fucking world, powers that exist that are dominated by, certain central banking clans will be mustered against you. Like we've
Oh,
seen
right,
this
right.
happen before. Like so, yeah, this whole question of like, non-Rothschild, Jimish banking institutions. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, in a way, the entire history of America is kind of, I mean, depending on who you ask, there's, deep, deep levels on all of this. But I like to personally believe the story of America is basically a rebellion against the Rothschild banking empire. And it lasted all the way until 1913. Because, like, fuck, man, we know the story of Andrew Jackson. I mean, shit,
Yeah.
and the founding fathers themselves. I mean, I know Adams for sure, and a few others. Like, they had to deal with the whole, Federalists and the fucking, Rothschild tendrils trying to creep their way in, even in their day. So, like, the whole history of America has been a struggle against the European banking power. It's just
No, I know.
hidden from people now. That's like, dude, have you ever seen that little cartoon? I don't know if it's still on YouTube or not, but it was called the American Dream. Did you ever see that? It's like kind of
I think
Cal
I
art
did.
style. It's not like particularly well drawn or animated, but it's still pretty good.
I think I
But
did
have you ever seen
actually.
that?
I'm gonna check that. That was 2011 or something.
Something like that. Yeah, it's from around that era. But yeah, they do like the Back to
Yeah,
the
I saw
Future
that.
spoof.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Dude, that little cartoon was like remarkably based in Red Pill.
Yeah.
And it did it completely avoiding the Gemish question. It just strictly stuck with like the bankers globalists level, like the Alex Jones tier.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm thinking about reorganizing my language and rhetoric to address basically nationalists and internationalists. I think that's the direction that I want to go, because I mean, basically the DNC has signed off on no borders. The reason that they are so against mommy is because she believes in sovereignty and she believes in borders. So that's why they had to kick her out. And you look at everyone else; they're basically saying let's decriminalize illegal aliens, which effectively is an end to national sovereignty. So it's like
Yeah.
I think that I mean, this is just the direction that it's going. This is what they're doing. This is not about me. This is about what they're doing. I think it's easier on a language level to just call them internationalists at this point. Yeah,
Sorry, I had to cough there.
that's okay.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you, Eke. Like half of me is with you, and half of me is hesitant. And the reason is because like there seems to be a how do I put this, man? There seems to be like a religious or ethno-religious, if you want to, there seems to be a uh, there's a word I'm searching for, but like there's a religious component to the conflict that we're all embroiled in right now. It's not just That's something that actually triggers me these days is when, fucking boomers in comments, they say something like, it's all about the money or it's all about the votes or it's all about this or that. And it's like, no, 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 no. It's about all of those things plus these things all at the same time, and these other things are things that they never talk about, they don't want to talk about, they turn on you for bringing them up. And I mean, we all know exactly what I mean, and we've all experienced it, I think, before. But
I'm gonna go ahead and
it really
say
does it. I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay.
no. I'm just gonna say I think it's a holy war. But I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's a fucking holy war. It's a goddamn blood feud slash holy war, and only one side treats it that way. So,
Yeah.
is it any wonder that we're being fucking dominated and cucked into oblivion? I mean, literally. It
So
shouldn't be. It shouldn't be to anyone who's fully paying attention. It should be quite clear and obvious that this is the inevitable outcome of the situation.
now, Elemental Metal said in the chat something about how this has been planned since 1813, and I think he's referring to the Bavarian Illuminati. And if I recall correctly, they had plans all the way out to World War III. So there's the outside chance that he may be right. There may be, what is it? The Boer. I forgot the guy's name, but there's that South African guy who was talking about how there were multiple haystacks, 3 of them in fact, and the last haystack would go up at the time of a man wearing a wig or something, or a man with silly hair. Trump, basically. For all I know, and there's also this sounds retarded. So this is basically, we're now X streaming. This is an X stream. There is
Yeah,
this,
welcome everyone.
yeah, I can't help it. there's this 4chan post that I read that I loved. It was great, and it was all about how the pending civil war in America may actually be sidelined. It may be put off because World War III happens. The idea was that they will create World War III to keep America from descending into civil war. What a freak show idea is that?
Yeah, but the scary thing is how plausible it sounds. I mean, to me at least. I don't know about you, bro, but is that really outside the realm of possibility at this point, knowing what we know?
Well, that's the weird thing, is that it's kind of like it's semi-reasonable. I mean, I'm
It's
not
almost logical, isn't it? Like it would stand to reason. Well, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, shit.
I mean, I know that sounds paranoid and all, but it's like, dude, I mean, Jesus. These people are out of control, you know, and like they want power. They just want to secure power. And if it's within their means to somehow keep control over basically an entire continent, I think they would do it. You know, and I guess if it means sacrificing a few sheep here and there, I think they'll do it. I think they'll do it. That's crazy talk, man. That's crazy talk.
Why not? Why not, though, dude? They've done it before. I mean, they've done it before. They're not above sacrificing a few sheep to further their ultimate goals.
No, it's true.
So, you know, I mean, fuck. You know, dude, like, so, like, coming back a little bit to the black people, just a little bit, you know, part of me, lately especially, but I mean, I've had this thought probably, I don't know, but the idea is, like, you know, some ways we have to kind of realize, like, in terms of power structures, I mean, we've kind of lost, like, they own all the power structures. We all kind of admit that. So, like, and to your point, Eke, saying, like, you know, these people, they just want power. They want all of it. They won't stop. It's like, well, take that to its logical conclusion. I mean, we already know where it's going. You know, they're trying like hell to, you know, move into this, like, transhuman fucking post-humanity type fucking existence. And it's like, we all know what's going to happen if they ever achieve that. It's bye-bye for the rest of us, because they don't need us anymore.
Well, yeah, it looks like they're going for Brave New World. I've been saying for some time that I thought they were going to go into Brave New World much more than 1984. Not that there aren't elements of 1984, but
yeah, no. 1984 is like a twisted vision based on what was already going on in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
It just extrapolated into the future. It's like all the retro sci-fi.
Well, no, but check it out though.
It is sci-fi in a way, but you know.
Okay, so check out the Brave New World thing though, because what they talked about were this ties in with Agenda 2030. This is 100% what Agenda 2030 is. Okay, everyone lives in mega cities. No one lives out in the wilderness. The Agenda 2030 people, they are buying up land, setting it up in trusts so that no one can live on that land. And they're creating all of these mega structures for people to live in. And that totally seems like what's going on right now. Now here's the thing though. The reason that I thought that the Brave New World thing was happening is because, yeah, I do see that. I do see everyone moving into megacities. I do see the rural population being just decimated. Just, they're being taken apart. And when I first had that idea, that was back in like 2010, 2011 or so. And back in 2010, back in 2011, I remember thinking to myself, this is what I am looking at is stunningly like brave new world, but it's lacking child sexuality. And lo, 8 years later, here we are, fucking drag kids.
Hey, yeah, you fucking thought too soon, Eke.
It's crazy. Like, if you had told me back in like 2010 or 2011 or whatever, if you had told me that there would be completely straight-faced people advocating that little kids get taught about masturbation, I would have been like, you're out of your fucking mind. Aldous Huxley talked about that in a dystopian novel. There's no way that people would sign off to that. Settle down. I would have said that. I would have said that.
And yet, here we are.
I mean, holy shit, dude. Anyway.
Yeah, dude. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to make mention of something, because you were saying something about how there is a religious component to all of this. I fucking agree. I agree. And the reason is because I did all those streams about Purim, the Talmud. I don't know if you heard, I went through all the 613 mitzvahs. Did you hear that one?
You know, dude, I listened to some of those, but
It's
I
okay.
didn't really catch the entire series
it's-
unbroken.
It's totally fine. Like, you have a life. My God, it's okay.
I did catch some real gems in that one, though.
Yeah, no kidding. So, okay, here, I'm going to give you basically a little bit of homework. Actually, no, I'm just going to read them. I'm just going to read them. That's what I'm going to do, because I can do it anyway. Let's see here. 613 mitzvahs. Okay, I'm going to read you a couple of the mitzvahs. Now, I want you to understand that these are commandments given to fellow whites by God. Okay? They are to go forward with these. They are to enact these, or, to engage in the behavior that is being exhorted, or to halt from the behavior that is being prohibited. Okay, so this is serious.
I caught quite a few of these, but go ahead.
Okay, so this is what. Okay, I'll read the mitzvahs, and then I'll give a little bit of explanation of why they're significant. So here they are. 596. Destroy the 7 Canaanite nations. 597. Not to let any of them remain alive. 598. Wipe out the descendants of Amalek. 599. Remember what Amalek did to the fellow whites. Now, here's the important part. Do they identify anyone as being an Amalekite? The answer is yes. Who is it?
And we know who they are.
Who is it?
The Germans.
That's right. That's right. So there is 100% a religious component to this. They genuinely view this as an exhortation by God to destroy us completely. And I was listening to a rabbi the other day. The rabbi was talking about, he was like, I'm going to give you a situation, and this is going to be a bit of a thing, but we're just going to talk about it, okay? What if I were to tell you, and this happened, what if I were to tell you that, because he was justifying the Amalek thing. He was saying, okay, Amalek is this terrible thing, we have to deal with it, we have to destroy 598, wipe out the descendants of Amalek. We have to wipe out the descendants of Amalek, and people will accuse us.
We have no choice.
Yeah, and he even said verbally, and people accuse us of being genocidal, wiping out men, women, and children. Oh, God forbid. But what if I were to tell you? And then he went on to this anecdote, and the anecdote was something to the effect of, and this happened. What if I told you that a Jewish doctor, cold and rainy night, was summoned to birth a baby because there was a troubled pregnancy. And so he goes out and he births the baby. They get through the pregnancy, they get through the delivery. The baby survives, the mother survives. And then the doctor kills the baby, chops it up in little pieces, and then stomps on it. It's a terrible thing, isn't it? You would say it's evil, that's awful. But what if I told you that baby was Hitler? All of that happened except for the baby dying. That's what we have to do. You're listening to this and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, you crazy person? But this is what they do. Like, that's a real thing. That's an actual... I listened to that lecture on YouTube. It was an hour long. I listened to it on fucking YouTube like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, the old would you kill baby Hitler? I think I saw that too, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these people are
but
like
these people,
straight genocidal. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Eke, they're commanded by their god to seek out and destroy the enemy. Yeah. Imagine if we still felt such conviction, how different things would be.
Well, no, this is a stream of peace.
Well, I mean, of course, not any individual in particular. I just mean our civilization as a whole, being committed to rooting out and destroying its enemies wherever they are. That, I mean, in some ways you could consider that noble, although, of course, like you said, Eke, this is a stream of peace. We love all peoples. So.
Right. We are all about radical love and inclusion. Diversity macht frei. Israel is our greatest strength.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, greatest ally.
Well, either way.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that like we've basically been conditioned to hate ourselves and to value everyone else.
And to love our enemies, man.
Yeah, the turning the other cheek, I think that's actually a big issue, and I got to find a way out of that one.
I'm kind of starting to agree with some of the more moderate I shouldn't say anti, but like people who are critical of Christianity. I'm starting to see some value in those arguments. Yes,
I do understand. The only reason that I'm still
nominally Christian,
I'm still using Christianity as the general tool set, and the reason is because it's 100% a BTFO. Even in its hyper-cucked form, it's basically kryptonite.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's complicated. My view is on the whole subject. Like, it would probably take a whole stream. I don't know. If I had to sum it up, I'd just say maybe Christianity, like, because the issue I have is, how do you reconcile these two issues, right? Where issue number one, people bring up a lot of arguments of why Christianity may not have been ultimately helpful to our people's or to European people's sense of like identity and preservation instincts and all of that good stuff. You know, how do you reconcile that position, right? Where it's like, well, yeah, okay, with the fact that that it's so vehemently hated by a certain group of people. So, but those two things don't mesh.
Yeah, I honestly do think that okay, for all the Christians in this in the chat, which I'm sure there's only like one, I actually think that because there's no or very little direct evidence that anyone named Jesus might have existed. I think the only record they could find is like a tax return or something like that, something retarded. I'm kind of the opinion that it was concocted, and I'm cool with that. I'm actually cool with that. And I think that it was designed specifically as a bulwark against fellow whites. I actually think that's the case. I'm starting to think that it was designed very specifically. Read Galatians, get woke. These guys, they actually were... What do we know about fellow whites? What are they known for? The two biggies are law and money. Law and money. What are the mitzvahs? Fundamentally, it's all about law. What's the Talmud? It's all about law. What do? They become lawyers.
Well, yeah, legalism is their invention. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other one is money. And Galatians is literally all about how you cannot find salvation through the law. That's essentially a complete rebuke of Talmudic style thinking. Having a checklist of shit that God wants you to do and then treating it like a laundry list, like you're just going to do these things and then you're going to be saved or whatever. God doesn't care about that shit. God cares about being a good person. You know, this is why Jesus would go on about the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law. Life consists in action. It does not consist in following some rule set. Anyhow, this is a complete BTFO. It's a total rejection of Torah-style thinking. So I think, and people, like, it went into hyperdrive. Like a crapload of people became Christians immediately after. And this pissed off the fellow whites for basically 2 millennia. So I kind of think that this is, it's a good direction. I don't think that the current interpretation of Christianity is at all useful. I really don't. So I would want to go back to, like, well, basically medieval. I'd want to go medieval.
You know, it's funny that, like, Eke, I agree with pretty much everything you said, and I want to add a little bit, which is that, you know, on the subject of Christianity as a bulwark, I mean, my thought is that, you know, certain people bring up, like, the origins and all, like you said, you know, it's entirely possible that it was set up and crafted. I mean, like, we know it was. You know, by who is always the question. And it's like, well, some people like to say that it was fellow whites that essentially crafted it and set it up. And that's the basis, the origin for the whole, you know, longest running PSYOP ever, right, argument. For me, though, it's entirely possible, thinking about it, that, you know, maybe, just maybe, there is a phenomenon of some of the most you know, vocal, like, ardent, fervent, you know, anti-fellow whites are themselves fellow whites. We've seen that before. So, you know, I mean, like you said, okay, like, you know, it's entirely possible that maybe it was set up to rebuke all these things precisely because the people that were doing it knew it so well, I guess is what I'm saying. That's entirely possible. But
yeah,
even then,
I think that they were. I mean, I think that it could have been some rogue Jews that set up Christianity. Because if you listen to a lot of the people, like, I'm only partway through, like, some of the books right now. It's going to take me a long time to get through all of it, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, they preached to the Gentiles basically. It was like some radical, weird form of Judaism that was basically inverted from Old Covenant Judaism. Just a complete inversion, as where Old Testament God demanded sacrifices. Or rather, well, I have heard that Old Testament God sometimes demanded sacrifices, but then ended up lifting that, and something to the effect of people wanted to give sacrifices, God allowed it to happen, or something. And then New Testament God was like, no more. We're done with sacrifices. You got to stop this shit. That's a radical departure. that's that's outstanding as far as I'm concerned. That's great. The idea of not having to fucking maim and kill animals to please a god, that sounds awesome. So, and I'm into that. I actually like that. And so it seems like maybe there were some people that were looking at what was going on, or like, we're actually done with this shit, and we're forming a new covenant. I think that might have been what's going on. Maybe.
I'm almost of the position, or at least I'll entertain the thought, and I've heard it a long time ago. It's almost like the God of the New Testament is a completely different God than a God of the Old Testament.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I foolishly was responding to something in chat. That's my bad. Sorry, what was that?
I'm just saying, man, have you heard people make the argument before, right, that the God of the New Testament, it's almost like a different God entirely from the God of the Old Testament?
Yeah. I was talking with a woman about that, and she got really upset about that. She threatened to stop talking about religion altogether with me because of it. Yeah.
Oh, fragile people, man.
By the way, just
as
a thing, I'm gonna have to call stream in like 10 minutes, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I don't mean to. What do you call? I don't want to cut it short exactly, but gotta cut it short.
Yeah,
anyway,
well, it is after 12:30, so
yeah, it's past my bedtime.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the idea of having a view of the Bible in which you've got two different gods operating, one Old Testament, one New Testament, blasphemous, but I kind of understand it, and I kind of think it's the case, for reasons it would take me so long to go into it, but the long and the short of it is, yeah, that actually kind of makes sense to me, and this is one of the reasons.
I think I'm on the same page with you on that, Eke.
Yeah, I've got to read Genesis and Exodus, because there's some interesting and weird wiggle room in there that I'm gonna have to get through. But I'm gonna try this winter to get through the Bible, as much of it as possible, and see where it takes me.
Dude, I need to do that too, man. I really do.
Dude, read Galatians and get woke.
Fuck. That's one, like, maybe this is probably the last thing I'll really get into for tonight, but the other thing that really kind of is like on my mind on this subject is that, like, when it comes to the Bible, man, it does seem to be oddly prescient. Like, there are things in there that I've seen that made me seriously question whether or not prophecy is a real thing, because it's just it gets eerie sometimes.
Well,
so, like, on that subject, like, the whole you've heard of the, I guess I can't really say it, I think it's a algo trigger, but we'll just say CI, and obviously the C refers to Christian. You'll figure out what the I is.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. So, like, I'm not full blown, I believe in that, but here's the thing. The idea behind it, at least, the whole, like, new covenant, new relationship, new people, maybe there's some truth to that. When you see what's been written about, like, how you'll know who, like, God's real chosen people are, it's pretty fucking, like, specific and clearly spelled out, and you can't, like, nothing that it says in the Bible about God's chosen people, how you'll know them, it applies to the people that say that they're God's chosen people.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, that was like a mega bomb that went off in my head at one point a little while back that I still haven't really fully like processed the implications of completely.
There's actually, I'd have to find it. There was a passage in that I was reading in Galatians, something to the effect of the law will not. There's no salvation in the law. There's only salvation in faith. That's a total rebuking of Talmudic thinking. They're basically saying, you stiff-necked rule followers, there is nothing in your rules. And that's great. I mean, and that, man, that even works for our own present situation with regards to all of these, the laws, the gun laws, right? They've got all this bull crap about, oh, we're going to reduce crime by blah, blah thing stuff. And it's like, dude, you fucking idiots. These rules and laws never did anything to prevent crime. Stiff-necked rule followers, they're only capable of rendering themselves incapable of dealing with reality. Meanwhile, everyone else, they're dealing with reality with or without this stupid rule set. So it's like we need to start rejecting. This is why I'm moving into more like biblical style thinking, because the rebuking becomes so much easier when you start quoting the Bible. So much easier.
It's kind of one of the only true ways to, quote, revolt against the modern world, unquote.
Dude, I have done some Deus Vult posting while pulling out quotes from the Bible. Yeah, and the weird thing is, like, it brings out your inner Chad. You actually start sounding like Billy Graham, and you're like, fuck it, dude, I'm going with it. It's weird.
Yeah, fire and brimstone kind of just starts flowing, and you're like, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah.
It's just in the blood, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get a smaller copy of the King James so that I can carry it with me and actually start banging on it.
Become like a literal thumper.
Yeah, it's gonna be fucking cool.
Yeah, dude. Imagine that, Eke. That's you. Like, your life has come full circle. You started out as a completely paused leftist, and now here you are talking about unironic Bible thumping.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's funny.
That's just like life. Life has a funny way sometimes, man. But
Yeah.
not that it's wrong at all. I think you've stumbled onto some sort of a truth here, which is that, if you really want to, because like the truth is, Eke, we all live under a fundamentally Jimish, legalistic system, and not just system in the sense of like the legal system, but also like the way people live, like the thoughts that go through their head, right? The idea of like, well, all I have to do is follow the law, right? Man's law, right? Man's with parentheses in it, and I'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
And like, even then, I don't even really have to follow the laws. I just can't get caught. And like, voila, you end up with the world we have today. Where people aren't guided by morals in the traditional sense of like, there's a reason why they always said God-fearing, right? Like a good God-fearing, because it's like the idea of being accountable to someone who's always watching, and not only that, but knows what's really going on no matter what. You cannot lie, right? Like, that's a terrifying thought. You'll control your behavior if you really believe that that's the fucking case. Whereas if you just believe you have to follow the law, well, then it's a lot less of a imperative.
Angels and fucking demons, bro.
Dude, but see, the scary thing is that, like, what if you put it all together, right? You put it all together where it's like, these pagan ideals of things like reincarnation and karma and various other things, like, and then the idea of, being judged by God for your deeds, various other things. It's all kind of the same, it's kind of it like no matter how you put it, the implications are exactly the same. You
Yeah.
live good, you live a good life, you do things according to a sort of universe and like see, okay, this is another thing when we get down to it, like, we boil the political debate down now to like nationalists versus internationalists, right? I mean, that's pretty much where it's there already, and it's increasingly heading in that direction, right? You can almost boil the spiritual side of things down to universalists versus relativists, right? Or put another way, uh, godly versus godlessness, right?
I would
I mean,
go
like,
with good and evil.
yeah, good and evil. It's the same fucking thing, man.
Yeah.
It's
No, I
all the
know.
same.
I know.
It's crazy how it all is melding together in a very. It almost makes me think like maybe I'm truly losing my mind. I don't know, man. Maybe all of this constant psychological fucking torture has been too much.
It's okay, man.
But then again, at the same time, I think no. I think it's all just come to this point where it becomes clear,
Yeah.
which is scary. Which is scary, dude, because like it becomes clear right before the fucking eruption,
Yeah.
right before the cataclysm.
Well, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'm gonna let that be the last. I'm gonna let your fire and brimstone thing be. Well, actually, not entirely the last. I'm gonna add one more thing. And that one last thing is, I think that there are ways out of this. So I think we're gonna be okay. Go with God, brother. You're gonna be okay.
Yeah, peace be upon you, Eke.
Yeah, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. Seek God, you'll be fine. And in all honesty, seriously, read Galatians and get woke.
All right, right on. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to get a hold of my pocket Bible here real soon.
Do it, bro. Do it. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna let out. Do you have a final word for us?
I guess just keep your head up, fam, and don't let my black pills get to you,
Okay.
because ultimately, I think we're all still heading in the right direction.
We're gonna win. We are going to win. God always wins.
We're gonna make it.
God
Yeah.
always wins. God is on our side. We're gonna win. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna take a couple of licks. Our hair is gonna get messed up, but we're gonna win. We're gonna be great.
All right. Well, I think that's the best way to end it right there. Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna pop off, and I'm going to do my closeout. So I'll talk to you later. And thank you very much for popping by.
Yeah. No worries, man. Thanks for having me on.
Cool, great. And any time you're up, just let me know, and I'll make a link. So there you go.
All right, man. Right on.
Cheers. All right, that was Sin, and with that, I am going to now shut her down. A thing has come up, and I don't really have time to do my outro, so I'm going to close it out the old-fashioned way without an outro. Bummer, but so it goes. Anyhow, I think I did just hair of case streaming, and I do think it's important that we keep in mind. I believe that exercising our God-given right to keep and bear arms is important, and if we are going to do that, I do think that having the 4 rules of firearm safety is of paramount importance. Rule number 1, always keep every firearm, or rather always treat every firearm like it is loaded. Rule number 2, never cover or sweep anything that you are not willing to destroy. Rule number 3, your finger stays off of the trigger until your sights are on target. And the 4th and final rule is be aware of your target and what's beyond it. Safety first. With that, thank you everybody for popping by. Totally signing out like immediately. So with that, go floss your teeth. All right, guys. Cheers.